Welcome to Japan, one of the most beautiful countries in the entire world. Famous for its natural sights like cherry blossoms and Mount Fuji, as well as for its cutting-edge technology like bullet trains and karaoke machines. Japan seems like the perfect place to live. The people are all so civilized, and to the Western world it appears nothing bad would ever happen there. Of course, that's not the case. Let's scale it down a little bit and move on to the capital of Japan, Tokyo, an industrious city with a rich history spanning over 400 years. This metropolis is famous for the world's top-rated restaurants, delicious cuisine, and the busiest intersection on the planet called Shibuya Crossing, among other things. Being such a busy place with a large population, it's inevitable that amongst the wonderful citizens of Tokyo, we would find some bad apples. And speaking of ill-intended people, let's talk about Kyota Hattori. There isn't much to say about the 24-year-old. All that we know about him is that he wasn't a person that got along with other people. He had trouble engaging in social activities with his so-called friends, and even at his job. He didn't really get along with anyone. What we do know is the fact that he was a Joker fanatic. He loved the character so much that he used to dress up as him for Halloween. It seems like he identified with a fictional villain because Kyota also thought he was misunderstood and oppressed. Speaking of Halloween, let's go back to the night of October 31st, 2021. What were you doing at that time? We bet you were celebrating Halloween, wandering the pumpkin-decorated streets. Some of you may have been at home waiting for trick-or-treaters. When it comes to Tokyo, things are pretty much the same. People are partying, all dressed up in some of the most creative costumes you'd ever see, and overall, they were having an amazing time. But that night, horror came to life in Japan. And we're not talking about ghouls and goblins. No, we're referring to the sick actions of an individual. Actions that ended in 17 injuries. One of the individuals being as close to losing his life as possible. It all happened around 8 p.m. A train was returning from the western suburb of Shibuya. The means of public transportation was filled with people which were going to their homes after they were at different parties. So the thought of something so unspeakable happening was not on their minds. Then, Kyota Hattori boards the train, ready to put an end to several people's lives. But he didn't just think about that. Oh no, the 24-year-old planned everything since June of 2021. In that period, he had some problems at work. It's not clear what kind of trouble he got himself into, but it was clear in his mind, murdering several people was the only solution. But before the rampage happened, let's go back and check out a timeline compiled by police thanks to the footage they had from several security cameras. Fortunately, Japan, and more specifically Tokyo, has a large number of devices that make it easier for police to protect their citizens. Tokyo has 1.06 cameras for every 1,000 people and 7.45 cameras per square mile. According to all the evidence gathered by the police, Hattori boarded the Kyo Line subway at Kyo Hachochi Station. It all happened around 5 p.m., hours before the carnage started. It was pretty early at that hour. Even though Tokyo is pretty much a crowded city, the man wanted more. The man wanted a far larger number of people around him, and he knew that it will happen because later in the day, everyone will be wanting to go home from their Halloween parties. After doing so, he transferred to the Kyo Inokashira line and arrived at Shibuya, a major gathering spot for Halloween partygoers. The place was packed with people, but it wasn't crowded enough. He supposedly looked around his surroundings, but mostly kept his head down without raising any suspicions. No one knew what the 24-year-old had planned for them. Nothing seemed abnormal from the footage the police managed to get. It seemed like he was just a normal guy, taking the subway and going different places. Kyota got off the train and proceeded to walk around the streets of Shibuya, which were filled with a large number of individuals, each one of them flaunting a creepy or extravagant Halloween costume. especially at Shibuya Crossing, the place famous for being so busy that on a regular day, 3,000 people cross the intersection at a time. After taking a stroll, Hattori decided to get back to public transportation. Maybe he thought it was still pretty early to launch his attack on innocent bystanders, or maybe he thought that being in the open would make his plan more difficult than it would normally be. Around 6:40 p.m., Hattori boarded the train at Inokashira Lane, then transferred to the Kyo Line train that headed to Chofu Station in western Tokyo. It wasn't long until he reached his preferred destination. It seemed that he took his time, scoping the surroundings and looking for the perfect place to strike. It was a premeditated attack that, in his mind, needed to happen when more people were around him. The surroundings seemed perfect. There were many people. They were all cooped up in the train, and they didn't have a way of escaping, especially if the vehicle was moving. It was a sure-proof plan. Immediately after the 10-car train departed Chofu Station, Hattori took out a knife as well as some pesticides from his backpack. From police reports, we found out that a nearby 72-year-old male passenger saw him. He thought the actions of the 24-year-old were pretty suspicious, so he went over to ask him what he was planning to do. That action almost cost the man his life. Out of nowhere and without showing any emotions, Hattori pointed the knife at the innocent individual, stabbing him in the right side of the chest. The knife had a 30-centimeter blade, and the aggressor could have easily killed his victim if he had stabbed him just a few inches to the right. It seems that long blade punctured a lung, and the man was lucky to be alive. But he was not done with his first victim. Hattori then decided to splash some pesticides over the man's head. These chemicals were acting like some sort of acid, irritating the victim's skin and eyes. Upon seeing the gruesome scenes that were unfolding in front of them, the other passengers got up from their seats. One witness said that he thought it was some sort of Halloween act or demonstration. But upon seeing how things turned out, he realized the seriousness of the situation and began fearing for his life. People began running chaotically for their lives, all while Hattori chased them, looking for the kill. He was holding a big bloody knife, and the sight of that stained blade would make anyone fear for their safety. Quickly, the car got emptied, everyone moving into a different one, trying to stay as far away from the aggressor as possible. Other videos captured on smartphones showed desperate passengers struggling to squeeze out of the train's partially opened windows onto the platform of the Kokuryo station. It all looked like a scene from a movie. The people that were already waiting for the train thought that there was a terrorist attack. The doors had failed to immediately open when the train stopped, and people were trying to get out of the enclosed car to save their lives. As he was chasing the passengers frantically throughout the train, the Japanese Joker was also doing something else. He swapped the pesticides for lighter fluid this time, and he was splashing it around on the seats and walls of the train. He then set the entire place on fire. Some of the other scenes were filmed by witnesses, and one video uploaded on Twitter showed a steady stream of people running away from the train car, trying to escape the flames, but still suffering some injuries from smoke that had resulted. The floors and ceilings of some train cars were burned, as police stated. Firefighters were able to put out the fire after 30 minutes. Another video showed police officers entering the train. By that point, almost every other person that was inside the train had managed to escape, except for those who were hurt. But there was still someone there who was completely fine, physically. As the trained officers stepped foot inside, they noticed Hattori. He was sitting with his legs crossed, and it seemed he didn't have a care in the world. Also, pictures surfaced on the internet of him at the moment when he lit up a cigarette, looking like he was rewarding himself for a job well done. The investigators examined the train cars that were involved in the incident and removed them from the subway, locating them to a rail yard the day after. As the result of his attacks, fortunately, no one lost his life, even though the man that ended up being stabbed remains in critical condition. Apart from him, 16 other passengers, with ages that range from 10 to 69 years old, suffered throat pain and breathing difficulty from all of the smoke they had inhaled, as well as other mild injuries. But what made the young man resort to such dangerous actions? Why would he want to kill people that he didn't know without any clear reason? Sources said that the 24-year-old suspect had planned to commit the heinous crimes since June. According to the investigators, he revealed that he had many problems at his place of work. He also had trouble forming relationships with other people. The Metropolitan Police Department learned that Hattori had caused trouble at his workplace in June and had quit his job. But what was his way of thinking? Well, as the perpetrator said, he wanted to commit mass murder. He wanted to kill at least 2 people so that after police arrested him, he would be sentenced to death. That's right, Hattori was hoping for the death penalty so that his life would end. You could call it a form of suicide, but in this case, other people were supposed to lose their lives. On November 2nd, the police referred Hattori to the public prosecutor's office. Upon further questioning, he admitted that he chose Halloween night because he knew that many people would be out, and it would be easier for him to choose his victims from a sea of individuals roaming the streets or using the means of public transportation. Hattori also told the police that he had chosen an express train to carry out the attacks as it runs for a longer amount of time between stops, reports the Japan Times. At the time of the attacks, Hattori was wearing a purple suit with a green shirt. Yes, that may sound familiar. On the 31st of October, he was dressed up as the iconic villain from the Batman comic books, the Joker. The criminal admitted that he copied the Joker, adding that he admired the character because he was so comfortable with murdering people. Of course, the 24-year-old had never attempted to murder anyone before, so dressing up as a character that did that on a daily basis, he thought he would gain the confidence to finish the job. He also said that it was his best outfit, and he purposefully purchased it to wear on that particular day. He had only a few thousand yen on his person at the time of his arrest, after reportedly telling investigators that he had spent 200,000 yen on his Joker costume. Hattori grew up in Fukuoka's Hakata ward. Hakata is one of the oldest cities in Japan and is known for its modern malls and traditional craft stores on the Kawabata shopping arcade. Busy noodle shops serve Hakata-style pork ramen, and after-work crowds fill the casual bars near the Hakata station. According to different sources, Kyota apparently left the city in June of this year. He then spent about 1 month in Kobe and another in Nagoya while staying at hotels. He arrived in Tokyo sometime in late September to early October, moving from hotel to hotel, sources said. The violent incident shocked Hattori's hometown friends, with some describing him as having a low-key personality. The police managed to talk with different people from his hometown. A man who attended the same elementary and junior high schools as Hattori said that he was very quiet and never caused trouble or scenes of any kind. He liked to keep to himself and not draw any attention to his person. He said the last time he saw Hattori was at the Coming of Age Day celebration to mark adulthood for people turning 20. Another man who went to school with Hattori said he recalled the suspect as someone who did not form a group or participate in groups. He was a loner and preferred his own company over the company of others. Hattori did not particularly excel in studies or sports, the man said. He was just average, blending in with the crowd. He had little presence, his former classmate added. People from his hometown feel ashamed of what happened, according to their statements. A 50-year-old woman whose son attended the same kindergarten and elementary and junior high schools as Hattori said the suspect was a kind and quiet child. She remembers that any time the two would bump into each other on the street, the young man would always say hi to her in a very respectful manner. Yukon Fuji, a Japanese newspaper, categorized Hattori's act as essentially a copycat crime, inspired by a similar rampage that occurred in August on the Odakyu Line train. And they were right. The suspect also said that he had been inspired by the recent knife attack where a 36-year-old man stabbed 10 passengers on the Odakyu Electric Railway commuter train on the day before the Tokyo Olympics closing ceremony in August. Hattori reportedly told police he used lighter fluid in his attack because the cooking oil used in the Odakyu attack did not ignite, so he decided to have on him a 2-liter bottle. According to Yasuyuki Deguchi, a professor of criminal psychology at Tokyo's Future University, many people are not that good at taking action on their own. So, that's why so many crimes are being copied. When an unstable person watches the news and sees different reports of other incidents, he forms a sense of sympathy for the murderer or the criminal that's on TV. Thus, a sense of frustration is created, thinking, why can he do that and not me? And so, a new crime emerges, similar to the one before. And there is a reason why trains are being singled out for being the places for such attacks. This means of public transportation are enclosed spaces, and potential victims cannot escape immediately when something occurs. Also, if the driver or conductor is not informed that something is going on through an emergency intercom, he can't take action and halt the train to permit the victims to escape. Thus, it is the perfect place for a murderer to do his bidding. After the attacks that Hattori made during Halloween night, a bunch of different perspectives have popped up over many news outlets. While the majority of people express outrage toward his actions, there are others who view the entire story in a different manner. A few articles injected their reports on the subject with a degree of empathy toward the aggressor. They managed to describe him as a himote otoko. This term can be translated as an unpopular man, or better yet, it can be compared to the Western term of incels, or involuntary celibate males, that live their lives on the web and don't go out to meet other people and have a social life. Instead, they are perfectly comfortable in their own separate bubble. But of course, that separation often leads to frustration and ultimately to desperate acts like the one we're talking about. In a story entitled "The Criminal on the Kyo Line Attack was a monster created by a disparate society, Jitsua Bunka Taboo," a Japanese publication identified such random attackers as single males, many coming from impoverished families who work at irregular jobs in the service industry, typically earning wages so low that even if they live with their families, they are unable to save money. Others, once being rejected by a girlfriend, never recover their mental equilibrium. In the article, the writer concludes that we have no idea when another Hattori-like character will attempt to kill again. It also states that the only way to avoid such incidents is to build a society where even the misfits can live happily in their own way, on their own terms, as opposed to them being treated as outcasts. This was the second attack involving a knife on a Tokyo train in 2 months. In August, the day before the Tokyo Olympics closing ceremony, a 36-year-old man stabbed 10 passengers on a commuter train in Tokyo in a random burst of violence. The suspect later told police he wanted to attack women who looked happy. While shooting deaths are rare in Japan, the country has had a series of high-profile knife killings in recent years. In 2019, a man carrying 2 knives attacked a group of schoolgirls waiting at a bus stop just outside Tokyo, killing 2 people and injuring 17 before killing himself. In 2018, a man killed a passenger and injured 2 others in a knife attack on a bullet train. And in 2016, a former employee at a home for the disabled killed 19 people and injured more than 20. Tokyo officials decided that they need to protect their citizens. They said that they are already working on security plans. They do not want people to ride in the means of public transportation in fear. It's safe to say that in the future we will see different security measures in Tokyo and all around Japan. At the time of his arrest, images of Hattori wearing a gray jumpsuit were uploaded to different social media platforms. The man did not seem bothered at all. The look on his face was simply without any emotion. He did not regret stabbing the passenger and almost ending his life, but there was one thing that he deeply felt sorry about. One of the last things he said that got out to the public was that he was sorry that he didn't manage to murder anyone. This type of mentality is a danger to others for sure. We do not know the sentence he received, but hopefully the 24-year-old will be locked up and kept far away from the people of Tokyo. But there was another consequence resulting after the attack on the train. After the culprit was arrested, news started to appear online. Because of the 24-year-old's connection with the Batman villain and the murderous streak he went on, a source said that the beloved movie featuring Joaquin Phoenix is likely to be banned. It is suggested that this scene in which the Joker gets attacked on the subway is too reminiscent. It is believed that the movie, if it would be aired again, would stir so much negative emotions in the people that took part or witnessed the incident. Of course, many individuals do not support this idea. They think that the movie featuring Joaquin Phoenix is just fiction, and it should not be associated with the incidents that took place on 31 October. Even though they are right about the fact that it's only fiction, the truth still remains. Hattori proceeded to do these horrible acts after being inspired by the blockbuster. What do you think? Should so many people be punished by restricting their access to the bill of a movie? Or is it the right thing to do, as out of respect for the people involved in the attack? If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like the video, comment down below your take on it, and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit that notification bell in order to stay up to date each time we reveal a new shocking case. And until next time, stay safe. Keep your eyes peeled. You never know what's lurking in the shadows.